In this tutorial, we're going to talk about debugging Codename One's source code and your application based on that code, as well as forking it and making changes and contributing them back. So I'll start by watching and starring the Codename One project and also forking it, obviously. And we'll do the same for the Codename One skins project, which is also an important project we will need. Notice that I'm copying the HTTPS URL for the repository here. We'll soon see it being used when we clone these forked projects locally. So now we need to actually copy the code locally through clone. Now that we have this URL, we can just use git's clone and our credentials from GitHub in order to fetch the repository for Codename One. This will take a while. I'm skipping some of that in this video, but eventually when it's finished, it will NetBeans will offer to open the projects. You don't need to do that. You just need to open the Codename One project and the ports/JavaSE port project. Notice that these projects will include errors. Don't worry, we'll fix all of that. Now we need to fetch the skins project. And that's pretty similar. We're just using the URL for the skins project, and pretty much the same process exactly. Notice that here you don't need to actually open the directory, and there's no projects within that directory. It's just used internally as part of running the simulator. The next thing to do is to download the CN1 Binaries project. You don't need to fork it because it doesn't contain anything of value, mostly stubs and things like that. So we just download directly using the download button at that project, unzip it in the same hierarchy as the other projects, and make sure the name is CN1 Binaries and not something else, so it will be found by the build scripts when we try to build. Now comes the fun part. We can actually run the project. And to do that, we need to remove the existing jars within the project that allow us to debug it and replace them with the projects themselves. In the libraries section, just remove all the jars and instead add the actual Codename One project. Do the same in the run section. Make sure, by the way, that everything is at the top of the class path. I removed the javase.jar and replaced it with the ports/javase project and moved it to the top as well. That's it. All I need to do now is run, and once I run, the actual sources will be used in order to run the simulator, and it's mostly seamless. So here we'll talk about both debugging Codename One itself, changing it, and then also contributing it back. So to debug Codename One itself, we can just open this project and go to any piece of it, and when you control click on it, you can go to the actual Codename One source and not to a library source. That means you can change anything there. You can debug directly into Codename One. You can inspect variables. You can change their values. You can change anything and use apply code changes. You can literally do anything as if this was a standard project of your own, which it is in this case. So now I'm going to actually change a file, the UI timer file, under this different user, which isn't my standard user in GitHub. And here I'm adding a new factory method for UI timer, which is actually something quite useful that I wanted to do for quite a while instead of creating UI timers using a constructor and then invoking schedule. So this is really a simple shortcut method, which is very trivial to add and very useful. So I'm just adding this method, placing documentation and everything related to that. And once I do that, I can just use git to commit the change and then use the git menu to push it. And notice that this is seamless because it's pushing it to my own forked repository and not directly to Codename One's repository. So there's no checks and you can do any change that you think is right. Obviously keep in mind, if you want to contribute it to us in the future, that you need to abide by our coding standards and levels and also where the code came from. So this is all pretty trivial and you can follow this with every Git tutorial. So I'd like to talk about contributions. First, you need to make sure that you own every line of code that you are contributing. If you don't, make sure that you didn't remove copyright headers or anything like that, and I suggest discussing these things in the discussion forum first. Once you want to contribute, go to your fork of Codename One. In that fork, just press pull request and submit it through the wizard. It's that simple. Now, once it's done, we automatically receive an email and can process that pull request or discuss it with you. So I'd like to thank you for watching this, and we really appreciate that, and we appreciate all our users and developers, those that contribute and those that do not. But I do hope that you play a bit with the source code regardless of your intention to contribute, because I think it's very useful and helpful and a great teaching tool to us all. Thank you.